professional serving community, talkradio.nyc.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marcanico. The A Train to Sedona is also the name of a memoir I wrote about my journey to love and compassion. I wrote it to share my failures, my successes, so that my journey would inspire yours. You can purchase a signed copy on my website at lindamarcanico.com on Buy the Book page. You can get a regular copy from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and in bookstores. I have a free gift for you. I call it the cheat sheet for high vibration living. 7 exercises designed to keep your energy in the moment and vibrant. I'm going to highlight the breath today. We breathe in oxygen and let go of carbon dioxide. When we exhale, we help to maintain pH levels in the blood. When we breathe deeply and rhythmically, we engage the parasympathetic nervous system to relax the sympathetic nervous system, thereby reducing stress, lowering blood pressure, and the heartbeat. You can download a free copy of the cheat sheet for high vibration living on my website at lindamarcanico.com. I have 2 disclaimers. One is that this broadcast does not establish a professional relationship. And 2, that this broadcast, the opinions on this broadcast don't necessarily represent talkradio.New York City. Today, my guest is Elizabeth McPherson. Elizabeth McPherson, originally from Cornwall in England, started her career as a personal assistant and moved to London at age 24. She later worked in television and music before transitioning into the skincare industry alongside her husband, collaborating with L'Oreal. In 2014, she underwent a significant change, choosing to focus on personal development and well-being, which included an exploration of spirituality. In 2019, she founded the Lifestyle Concept, a professional organizing and decluttering business that assists clients in managing their possessions and establishing organized living spaces. Beth is currently writing a book and supports the maintenance of both physical and mental health. She incorporates her spiritual practice into her daily routine, guiding her clients from chaos to calm through the energy-shifting art of decluttering. As Beth says, it's all about loving yourself and loving your home. Beth enjoys socializing, fitness activities, dancing, which is wonderful, all of which light her up from the inside out. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Thank you, Linda. I'm delighted to be here.
I want to ask you, what influences from the past bring you to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a young lady, young woman, I loved tidying and sorting my room. I think I always say to friends, I think I've just got the tidy gene, it just but I always found it very calming. It just felt like a good thing to do. So I was always kind of going in my room and sorting through my clothes and letting go of anything. If it was a broken pencil, it would go, and when done that, and I did it most Saturday mornings, I just felt so calm. It was like, well, it is kind of just a gift, isn't it? To instinctively know that something like that just makes you where things are in order, but everything feels in its place.
Yeah.
And I could find everything. I just instinctively knew it was good. I also used to think, well, now I've done this, now I can do the fun stuff. So I'd be drawing and writing, writing stories and things I want to do. And then, of course, I go out and play. But I felt like I'd cleared the decks and everything was in order. It's just as simple as that, really. So I think it was a natural transition to where I am now.
And then you went out to do fun. You
And then
you
I went out
knew
for
how
fun.
to do that, which is a gift, really.
Yeah. It's like felt like it was clearing my brain space for the I'm still a bit like it now. I just when I know everything's in order, then I can just go and do stuff, you know. I think a lot of my clients are like that. And um yeah, it was I remember now. I remember I have such vivid recollections. Um, Going through my clothes, sometimes going into my mum's bedroom. She didn't know this, and find some of her faux fur jackets and her really pointy winkle picker shoes, and I'd be walking up and down the hallway in those. But that was the fun part, right? So I'd be like organizing the wardrobe and then nipping out and getting some stuff to wear, you know. So yeah, lovely.
I remember putting my mother's shoes on as well, going into her closet. It was lovely, just being close to her and to her things. She had quite a style. So when
Yeah,
did you start dancing?
from when I've got pictures of me at 6 years old dancing.
Mm.
Um, But I think I rediscovered it again in my bedroom. There's a radio station, I don't know if it still goes, called Radio Luxembourg. And I'd always liked my music. And I grew up with my parents who were very much like Ella Fitzgerald, the Beatles, Herb Alpert. And I really loved all that. But I felt like something was missing for me. And then I'll never forget it. One night, I put on Radio Luxembourg and I had this little transistor and it was all crackly. And I remember I was kind of going like this and trying to listen. And suddenly, Radio Luxembourg playing disco.
Oh,
It's like Donna Summer, Nile Rodgers, Chic, all those amazing bands. And I literally started dancing in my bedroom. I'd never heard any music like it. You know, it was so inspired, literally, like it, as its music still does, lights me up from the inside, really. So I'm not I don't do ballroom or anything like that, but I always say I'm a bit of a freestyler, but I
yeah.
can't not dance. You know, if I hear a good tune, I can't not tap my feet. I can't not dance. It's like if you put me in a nightclub and people stand around and they're not dancing, I'm literally like, what is wrong with you?
Mhm.
Because that feeling you feel, so often I think a lot of people don't feel entirely free. But with dancing, for me, I don't even care what I look like because I just go for it. And that's the thing, you just feel like you're glowing on the inside, you know.
It's a beautiful way to create energy. Kuan Yin, the Buddhist mother of mercy and compassion, says dance and create your energy, create it with love and joy. So that's what you reminded me of when you talked about being the light coming from the inside of you.
Yeah, I've even gone out sometimes when, we got an event organized and we're all going, and I thought, oh, I don't know, I'm not feeling that. But oh, Linda, the minute I get on the dance floor, suddenly I've just got this energy. And of course, it's like an engine, isn't it? You've got it going, and it's wearing up, and then suddenly you feel like you could dance forever. Yeah, it's amazing.
So tell me, what is the role of spirituality in your life?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I think when I look back now, I used to say, oh, I wasn't spiritual. But I think looking back, I've been thinking that there's been signs all the way along the way, but you don't always see them when you're not in that receiving mode, if you like. But I
Mhm.
remember like being about 15 and going to see a gypsy, for instance, in a cabin. So there must have been something in me that was like, you know, what does the future hold? Like there's more to it than this. And I remember reading a book about the true story, wasn't it? Where I can't remember who it's by, where the man took photographs of fairies and he published the book. And it turned out he made it up, but he said there was fairies in the garden. But I remember reading that book at a young age and literally going around my mum and dad's garden, looking behind the trees, desperate to find fairies, literally believing that they were real.
Mm.
And then I think as I got older, I started to do that thing that I think I say a lot of people, not everyone does it, but I I remember it was a very big moment. I was 18 and I used to literally get in my car, start the engine, drive out of mum and dad's drive, close the gate, then I'd put the radio on. And this one particular day, it was like this voice said to me, put the radio on now. Your favorite tune is on. And it was Level 42. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they were a really big band. And blow me down if it wasn't the very record. And I was just like, and I sat in my car and I thought, what's that about?
Mm.
That's very, you know? And then as the years went on, I just felt this connection with people. Sometimes I could meet someone. Um, and then it really went on until I think really around the time of between 2010 2014, where I got given The Secret. Actually, I got given The Power by Rhonda Byrne, first of all. So that literally was my first sort of spiritual foray, if you like. And I read this book about the power and love. And I remember reading it and crying and thinking there is a different way to be. Of course, then I was voracious. I couldn't wait to read another book and another book. Went on to read The Secret. And then I threw myself right in. My friend said, I think you're ready for Many Lives, Many Masters, Dr. Brian Weiss. And when I read it, I was like, oh, of course, of course. It was like that light bulb moment.
Yes.
From then on, it's become a huge part of my life. And, you know, there isn't a day, an hour, a minute that even if I'm feeling anxious, stressed, I might be in a chaotic situation, I always bring it. I have a lovely quote, that quote, what would love do? I always bring it back in my mind. What would love do? What would love do in these circumstances? Even if I'm in the most difficult client that the world's ever seen, what would love do? And sometimes I'll just go out and do a little meditation and walk around the garden and just say a few words. I love numerology as well, so I've really explored that and everything that makes you who you are. And when you know there's so much more, it makes life so much more joyful, I think, really.
I
It's
think
changed
so
my
too.
life forever. I can't even, there are no words. Hmm.
Something beyond the third dimension, something that connects us to the soul, connects our soul to that greater uh, gift, that greater being.
I don't know if it's the same. I'm sure it is the same for you as well. But I have found that since I've aligned with what I feel is my true soul purpose, and I'm doing this is what I'm meant to be doing. I attract the most amazing people in my life, and not just clients, but friends as well. I've got a friend that I've known 14 years since I've been here. And I remember walking into a cafe and I looked at her and she looked at me and we both just smiled the biggest smiles.
Mm.
Like I just knew straight away that she was going to be a really close friend and still is, and a lifetime friend, not just that moment, not just that moment in time, because we're working on a project together. And I find that now I connect with people all the time. Some friends I've got now quite recently, we're all spiritual. And the reason we connected, all right, we were all in a club and we started dancing to each other. But the thing is, we all have spirituality in common. That we're always talking about crystals, we share meditations. So, yes, it's life transforming.
How beautiful. Now we're getting ready for a break. And when we come back, I want to understand how you got into decluttering. So
Yeah.
listeners, come back now and join us after the commercial break.
Are you a conscious co creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a purpose-driven individual looking for deeper healing, clarity, and growth? Welcome to the Expansion Room, a transformative space for purpose-driven individuals. I'm Siobhan Larice, host, licensed therapist, and coach. Join me every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Beth McPherson. So, Beth, tell us how you got into decluttering.
I think as I shared that childhood story, there's always that in me, if you like. And then I worked for some bosses where I think when I look back on my stories with them, it was a lot of decluttering going on. If it wasn't the filing cabinet, it was their lives in some way, hastily going out to buy a present for one of their children they'd forgotten to get, etc. But when I came down to Dorset, it was my friend Helen, actually, that really, well, there was two really big things, really incredible things that happened. I think the first one was with my mother. We'd lost dad in 2009, and mum was still living in the house that they'd been in for 50 years. And I used to say to her, Mum, the house is really big for you. I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere. Dad would want me to stay here. I'm not going. But the house was getting fuller and fuller, and the greenhouse was cracked, and the loft was full, and the garage was full, and everything. And those things actually used to really bother her. But we were still not, she was stuck. She was stuck. And I come across that a lot. I think clutter can really keep you stuck. And then one day, and this is awful, she had a fall and she hit her head. And one of the reasons that I do think the universe has a weird way sometimes of delivering things, but she hit her head on a unit that shouldn't have been in the hallway. And the reason it was in the hallway is because she didn't have room in the bedrooms. And when she came round, she said it was like someone had kind of knocked some sense into her in a good way, And she actually said, I think this fall was meant for a reason. I think I was shown here that I can't stay here anymore. Would you help me declutter my home? So I spent a week with Mum. Now, Mum at that time was really not in a good place, I'd say mentally. She was very depressed. I'll be really honest with you, she was very depressed, the house, and obviously having to let go of everything was really difficult. And she was going to a brand new 1-bedroom apartment, and it was all very alien to her. But Linda, if you saw the transformation in my mother by the time that we left, I think about 8 months took to complete the transaction. She started putting makeup on, doing her hair. She met some lovely ladies. They started going out for lunch. She started going for walks. this was not the woman that had been
Mm.
in that home. And she's now 91 years of age and still alive and still okay. She's had a fall recently, but she's okay. I think that decluttering and letting go of the past, I know how hard it was for her, has actually given her a new lease of life, you know? So I think that was a story there. And I actually asked my mum, I said, why did you ask me? And she said, well, it's what you do, isn't it? Which was, you know, not what I was thinking. And then the other one that was really fun, my friend Helen was, well, not so much fun. She was splitting from her husband, but it was very amicable. And she said to me one day, would you come and zhuzh up the house? And I said, oh, I don't know what zhuzhing is. And she went, oh yeah, you're very good at it. And then I just went in. I was like, am I? Okay. And then when I got there, I said, oh yeah, I know what zhuzhing is. And I remember this one specific thing. They had a piano and it was closed, it was covered in dust, and the photographs of them were all hidden away. I said, look, no one needs to know that you're splitting up. Let's get those wedding photos up. Let's get them cleaned up. Let's wipe the piano. Let's put the lid up. Let's put some sheet music up. Let's move that cushion. Let's move that print. Let's clear this clutter. And there was a lot of clutter as well. So it was really pouring love into the home. That's what it felt like, you know? Within a week, she'd got an offer. So,
And what I'm hearing is that you're pouring a lot of love, your love energy into this, because these
yeah,
women, you're both your mother and Helen. Certainly your mother was transformed by your decluttering.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
definitely.
a case in process, a case in point.
Yeah. And then Helen said to me, oh, you're so good at this stuff, you know? And then I thought, wow, is it a thing? I started to do a bit of research. And of course, I'd already been aware that it was a thing. This was as far back as 2015, to be fair, but I didn't have the confidence until 2019 to do anything about it because I kept thinking, I put it out to a few people and they were like, well, it sounds more like a charity and you won't be, you won't make any money. That's not a business. And I kept thinking, I don't know about that. But 2019, I found an association in London, the Association of Professional Declutterers, and I thought, yay, there's actually a group. So I joined them just to really get the diploma and just to get that validation that I
Yeah.
felt I need going out to say that I'm a member of, of this. And then the clients just started to roll in, really. Word of mouth, bit by bit. It's taking me a while to get my SEO going, but that's really how a lot of it's been word of mouth. Once you do a good job for someone, then they tell someone else, right? They tell a friend, and it's gone from there, really.
I'm thinking of your mother and Helen as your first clients.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, both of them. You know, I'm still doing stuff for Helen now. She's got a few properties that we're working on. There's a case of decluttering. We've just worked on one recently, actually, that's been her parents again had lived in the house for 50 years, huge house, quite well hoarded in the word that Helen would use as well. We've cleared it, we painted, we decorated, we've done the whole thing, and they've had loads of offers on the house, and within weeks as well, which just shows, doesn't it? We painted, we've had such a laugh doing it, getting paint everywhere. We've decided that we're not that great about painting, but what fun. But that's what I love about my job, because you never know where it's going to go. Because to me, it's not sometimes the decluttering, yes, is the first thing, but then someone goes, right, I think that door needs to be a different color. I think we need a new light fitting. And that's what we did with the house. We styled it. So we took it. It's my first time that I've ever been allowed to take a house through to the end. And I am a completer finisher. So you cannot begin to tell you what joy. And when she said to me a few weeks ago, we've had offer after offer on the table, you know? So yeah, this stuff can change lives,
Well, you've shown by your first two clients and the clients you're continuing to work with. Now, before the show, we talked about the fact that you are based in England, but yet you're available to do work in other continents.
Yeah, definitely. When I've worked in another continent, and it worked brilliantly, actually. We just set a time each week. This particular client had a house here in the UK. that she couldn't come over and visit, and found me. And it was great. I should just pitch up with my cup of coffee in my hand and go to the door, and then I'd ring her at the set time. And then as we were going through, I'd literally just show her, walk her around the house. She was very specific. She was very organized, actually. And she was literally saying, right, I don't want that picture. That can go to charity. Those toys, they need to go in store. And I was just making notes as I went along, so Lego in store, picture to charity, and then sending it over. It would take about 2 hours. And then I'd finish the call with her, and then I'd do the physical work. So I'd be taking the pictures down, putting them into piles, creating piles. She wanted to put some stuff into store. I found the storage. So yeah, it was great. It worked seamlessly, actually. I think you can declutter remotely, really, as long as you set the space, the intention. It's possible to do, and overseas as well.
So you mentioned you were on WhatsApp when you did it.
Yeah, that seemed to be the best, actually. It was very easy because you can do it on WhatsApp video. I can see them, they can see me. And as I come to like if you were going to take a photo on WhatsApp, is that you flick it around so they can see and you say,
Yes.
well, what about this? But if I was working with a client and it wasn't that situation, and I've done this remotely before, I had the client, I look at the client, but then she'll say, right, we're just approaching the hallway, and I'll get her to flip the camera around, and then I get her to show me all the areas, hopefully with honesty coming into it, because sometimes they don't always like to show you every little nook and cranny. But then we then flip back, and then she's, what do I do now? And I said, right, well, to your left was so and so. So let's go through the coats first of all. There's some bags there. Oh, yeah, those are the bags for charity. Right, get those in your car straight away. It's possible to do. Yeah, definitely.
And you make recommendations to say, she doesn't want this photo, that's going to go to charity. This is going to go in storage.
Yeah.
And then you arrange the storage. If you were working on a different continent, might that responsibility of finding storage be with the client?
It would probably be easier just because of that lack of knowledge. And I liked being on the ground because with this particular client, I wanted to see the storage unit. I wanted to see what I was signing her up for. I let her do all the financials and sort all that out, but she went on my recommendation. And I also liked the person I worked with because he was a removal person as well. So I actually worked with him physically and liked his style, if you like. And then I met him at one time because I think there was a few bits left over, and I was able to go and meet him and drop off some stuff as well. So, but yeah, I think everything's so much is available now, isn't it, by the internet? The times have changed so much. It's just doing a bit of research really, and deciding if there was a storage situation, how big a storage is required.
Right. So why do you think decluttering is such a big deal now? Is it a fashion or a trend, a new way of thinking?
I think it started off as a trend. I think, there's either people that are really into that kind of thing, there's people like the minimalists in America, in Los Angeles. I've been following them for ages. But it's now become like a movement, and it's almost like a spirit. I think it's a spiritual shift. I really do believe that, because a lot of clients that come to me, they may not think they have a spiritual bone in their body, but I always say to myself, if they've got a salt lamp and they've got a Buddha in their garden and something sparkly, they're definitely on the path, and they don't always know it. And I talk about energy, and they go, what? I go, no, trust me, it's energy shifting. And they're feeling that in their gut, in their head, every part of them is saying, I want to be free of this stuff. I
Yes.
feel stuck. I feel suffocated by it. I don't want this stuff anymore. Because, we come here, I think it's probably Buddha that says this, we come here with nothing and we leave with nothing. And Western society now, we've got so used to filling our lives. Every space in our diary is full. People, we've forgotten just how to be, just how to sit quietly with no noise, with a cup of tea, or like you were saying today, go for a bike ride, or, and I think I know that we've become so used to buying something to fill that gap. And I know that I was that person. I used to say there's no such thing as a non-shopping day, literally. And I used to tell myself that I deserved it, that it was okay, I'd justify, but actually it didn't make any difference. It didn't make me happier just in that moment, just that serotonin, and then it was
Yes.
gone. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's what people say. It's the moment of the purchase, and then people keep things with tags on and they add to that. And really the path to happiness is questioning within and doing the work to develop love and compassion, to forgive, to grieve, to do whatever we need to do to get closer to our heart and the core of love within us, where Creator is.
Yeah.
It's quite a journey away from buying things. Of course, we need to buy things
I
too.
love things. I'm never not going to like clothes, honestly. That's never going to change, you
I
know.
too. I too.
But I've stopped that going out to fill that hole, which is what I used to do before. Shopping was I'm feeling I'm gonna
Yeah.
of course the boutiques would love me, wouldn't they? She's coming. Yay. And I'd buy it, and then it was it'd fill that gap, and then it'd be left. So I think a lot of people are feeling that now. Why do I need all this stuff? You know, we're sold to all the time, aren't we? The marketeers are out there. It's just literally we're being sold to. Even those little snaky lines, you know, when you've already got your purchases, I'm sure you've got them in stores over there where there's always just one more thing you could buy. You know, there's
Right at the cashier, all these different things that you're being tempted as you're waiting.
well, I know when I lived in the States, the cashiers always used to say, "Is that all for you today, ma'am?" And I used to think, "Don't tempt me. I'm going to be tempted in the shop." Yes, isn't it enough that I've got this already? You know, but yeah, I think people are starting to. Those that come to me are definitely feeling that shift. You know, that energy.
Yes, there's a lot of energy coming in, and we're all awakening and developing further, and we'll continue to see this shift, and people want more. People will want to know more about their soul, their spiritual journey.
Yeah, I think so as well.
So we're getting ready for a break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you to talk about the lifestyle concept, the name of your business, Beth.
Yes.
So let's take a break and do come back.
On Frank About Health, we're not just talking healthcare. We're managing disruption and innovation. Over the last 4 years, I've taken you from epilepsy and COVID to mental health, caregiving, and now the front lines of healthcare transformation. Stay tuned for a healthier future as we bring on the innovators, professionals, storytellers, and advocates who show you how to own your healthcare every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Ready to serve up success with a splash? Hi, I'm Bruce Kramer, aka the Corporate Cockroach.
I'm the Renaissance woman, Angie Snowball.
And I'm your strategy doctor, Dr. Navtej Desange, inviting you to serving up success with a splash.
Join us as we shake things up with real talk and real strategies centered around awareness, action, and accountability.
And yes, there really is a cocktail involved. Please join us and sip your way to success.
Serving up success with a splash, where wisdom meets happy hours. Cheers!
Cheers.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I am Linda Marsanico with my guest, Beth McPherson. Beth, tell us about the lifestyle concept, the name of your business.
Yes, it's interesting how it came about. When I left London and moved down to Dorset, I got very involved in the high street where I lived. I literally threw myself into it, even painting bollards and all sorts of things. It was fun, and putting on a food festival. And really, they always say there's no such thing as a mistake, isn't it? It's like everything's a lesson and a learning. And because I love shopping so much, I decided I was going to open up a shop to help reinvigorate the high street. It was a shop, the kind of shop you'd see in sort of South London and all the trendy suburbs. And it was a bit ahead of its time, if I'm really honest. But I called it the lifestyle concept because I wanted to encourage people to have less stuff, but really lovely things. You know, the candles, you know, I sold The Secret, I sold The Power, you know, beautiful things. I didn't want it to be a cluttered shop. I wanted to show people how they could just have really lovely stuff. And really interestingly, I put a decal in the window that said decluttering, but I never really focused on that side of it because I just didn't know that it was a thing. It was actually before Marie Kondo had even written her book. So there you go. So I was really obviously thinking along those lines. But what became really obvious is that I am rubbish at selling something that I do not really believe in. And I didn't really want to sell people stuff that they couldn't afford, that they just came into my shop because they felt sorry and they bought something. And there was a lot like that. You know, literally one lady used to say to me, "You've got such a lovely shop. I do come in every week, just even if I just buy a coaster, you know." And I thought, that's so lovely, but it made me realize that that wasn't my calling, you know? And when I looked at the name, the lifestyle concept, I realized it was tender loving care. It stood for tender loving care. And then I knew then that I wanted to do the decluttering. It all sort of fell into place, really. And it was even the way that I fell in love with the high street and was litter picking and weeding. It all, when I look back, it was, you know, I used to think, what an absolute nightmare to get from there to there. But actually, it was all good. It was how it was meant to be, you know, because I came to realize that me running a business wasn't me selling loads of stuff to people on the high street, you know, and all the pressure of getting the right stuff in. It was literally helping people let go of stuff, not selling them stuff. So yeah, that's how it came about.
How long did you keep the shop open?
18 months. So, and when I closed it, it was, you see, the thing is, I think like I know how to I know how hard it is to let go, but I know I can help my clients let go because I had to let go of a shop.
Our
And
experiences help our clients.
yeah, and I wanted to keep going with it, and I got a business mentor in, and he said, "Sweetheart, let it go." And of course, or the week before, I had a massive sale to clear everything. And I had people come in the shop that had never been there in 18 months and they lived in the village. And they were literally saying, "Oh, my goodness, what a beautiful shop." And I had all the trendy brands and it was amazing. They were like, "What?" And I said, "You never came." I said, "You never came. You never saw me." And I said, "Well, we'll do a crowdfunding." I said, "No, no, 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 no. It's time to let go now. It's time to let go."
Because you needed to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a direction away from selling new things, but getting people to let go of what they didn't need anymore, what they don't need anymore.
And as I said to you about Helen's project with the big house we've just worked on, I did actually like going out and buying new lampshades with her. You know, we did do that, you know, because I like that bit too. And I think what I was trying to say in my shop in my clumsy way was, you know, I can help you declutter. Then if there are gaps, and it could be a cutlery drawer sorter, you know, we'll go out and buy it together. You know, if I declutter your clothing and there's some obvious gaps, we can go out, yay, we can go out clothes shopping, you know. So that was it. But I wasn't direct. I was muddled myself, to be fair, muddled myself. You know, I still wasn't clear thinking myself. And when everything started to fall into shape, really was 2019 when I really thought, yes, now I know who I am. Now I know what I'm doing. And it was just a fantastic moment, to be fair.
It sounds like it could have been a challenging process.
It was really challenging. Yeah. I mean, I divorced because 2014, I'd moved down from London. My husband and I had been together 18 years. Our marriage fell apart. I moved to Lymington. Then I moved to my friend's cabin. Then I moved to an apartment. You know, it was literally chaotic, and managing all that stuff at the same time, as well as a shop, a failing shop. It wouldn't have been enough to bring. I think my spiritual beliefs, you know, we talked about that. Honestly, if I hadn't had my daily affirmations, you know, my gratitudes, even when I'd have a day when I hadn't seen a soul in the shop, you know, I kept thinking, keep on going, keep on going. There will be, it will fall, you know, because so many people were saying to me, you're more than this shop. You know, you've come to this village, you've thrown yourself into the village, not just me, there was a little group of us. We gave our time voluntarily and bought pots of paint and hung bunting up, and, you know, we put on the first food festival. But we're all part of this group, and we just wanted better things, you know, and I think that was the thing. So many people said to me, don't give up, don't give up. No, even if the shop doesn't work out, don't give up what you're trying to bring, if you like, really.
Right. And you didn't, and you went on to carry on, you know.
Yeah,
wonderful story. Thank you for sharing. Please continue.
That's okay. No, I think again, refer to Helen. She was there for me, and she, you know, she sort of gave me some PA work, and then someone else had been doing some marketing for me. She said, don't close the name of your business. You know, we've got the website, we've got the Facebook page, we've got the Instagram. You just change what you're doing, but it's the same thing. Well, it's a different thing, but it's the same name, if you like. Just don't give up. It just took me a while to find who I was. And I think I'd always been a PA, you know, I'd always been office manager, and then I ran a business working with L'Oreal. I knew who I was. But hopefully this story will resonate with a lot of women. I think particularly women when you get into your 50s, and your whole life changes overnight. You know, you're not that businesswoman, you're not working with L'Oreal anymore, you know, you're not jetting off to the States, you don't live in the States anymore, you know, you're suddenly in this sleepy little village in Dorset. No one knows you, no one cares, you know, like that. It's like the ego gets them, you know what I mean? Not that you want to go around saying, I've done all this stuff, but suddenly you're rug, you're comfy, you're support, you know who you are for the majority of your life. And suddenly, boom, it's gone, you know? And then a marriage of that long, and you're like, who am I? What am I? What is my role? You know?
Yeah.
And as I say, the spiritual side, I just kept believing and believing and believing that it was all going to come. And now when I look back, I'm like, well, of course, yes. It was all part of the, you know, and the TLC, the lifestyle concept, it was all part of the journey, you know. So I can't even really tell you when I chose the name. It just felt like a right name. I came up with it. I don't know. It just came out of my head, you know, and it feels right for my business now, because it's about leaving a different lifestyle, isn't it? Changing, you know, coming from a place of love, you know, loving your home, loving yourself, and being kind to yourself, and decluttering your home, letting go of that, both the mental and, of course, the physical and mental clutter. Clutter has mental attached to it, you know, mental attachment as well. Memories from the past, trauma, childhood trauma, you know, something's happened recently that's knocked you for six, clinging on to stuff, fear of poverty. There's so many emotions wrapped up in it. So
it's so important for us to acknowledge those and work to let them go because they don't serve us. I mean, it's one thing to be positive, and we need to be positive, but we also need to pay attention to what needs to be let go, what needs to be grieved, what needs to be journaled about, so that we can hear the voice of Creator.
yeah, I think
I'm distracted. I can't.
I think with the way that we're going through, you know, we're all evolving into this, you know, into our true selves. I think that I really do feel that very, very strongly. But I think there's been so much now with gratitude, you know, about gratitude and affirmations. But I always say, if you're not actually feeling them, they're falling on that they're a waste of space, aren't they? If you're struggling to find three gratitudes, because actually you're still thinking, my life's really awful, and I should have done this, and they did this, and I was, and that, and then they're not, to say them is good, is a good start, but I think always be mindful that saying them isn't just suddenly going to. I know when I started, and I say this just coming from my story, oh, 10 gratitudes a day, and then here's your affirmations. I just think, well, I don't even believe them. What's the point of me saying them? But of course, over time, if you say them enough, and as we all know, if you repeat things, was it 31 days or something, 21 days, you start to believe, don't you? If you, if you keep something up long enough, but it's hard to even get there in the first place, so.
And pun intended, we need to clean house.
Yeah.
Emotionally, mentally, so that we can really believe and manifest, co-create these affirmations.
Totally. And I always say it starts with a declutter. I really do. Clean house.
Clean mind.
They too go, because even when I've been working with clients, where I do a little bit of PA work for them as well, and I do a bit of mental health support really. And the client I've been working with for quite a long time, she's got a very cluttered home, but I want to sort of do some CBT with her, and she's got all the books and everything, but she hasn't got the headspace because the home is, and so I've kind of parked that for now. I want to be able to do those things. I want to take her for country walks, and all that other stuff, good stuff, the mental stuff. But right now, her head's so full of just stuff from the past, the stuff all around her, which is a memory of the past, which is causing chaos and actually causing her to be stuck as well. Stuck because physically can't move in some of the rooms. But it weighs heavy. I don't know that it feels the same for her, but I said to her the other day, I said, I feel tired coming here. I do. It makes me tired because it's so overwhelming, right? Claustrophobic is quite intense, so.
Of course, the journey starts with something. We can't do everything at once. As long as, we're consciously on the path. Of course, if somebody wants to be unconscious, that's for them and that's their journey and there's no judgment. But I wanted to say we're at time for a break. And I want to talk about, we have one segment to go. What kinds of clients you help and why do you think your clients have clutter? So listeners, we're having a break. Come back and we'll hear what Beth has to say about that.
Misalignment within your sales team or with the client stalls deals and creates unnecessary friction for you and the client, resulting in up to 37% lower win rate. If you're in pre-sales, sales management, or sales enablement, and you'd like to increase revenues, win rate, margins, client satisfaction, and stay competitive, this show is for you. Hi, I'm Art Fromm, host of the Making Seamless Sales Show. Please join me live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the Nonprofit Sector Connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marasanico with my guest, Beth McPherson. So, Beth, we have inside of about 10 minutes. We've got a lot to talk about. Tell me, what kinds of clients do you help?
I think all of them feel stuck. They often say that it could be that they're feeling they've had enough of it or their partner has had enough. So there's a little bit of, they're having not exactly rows, but literally disagreements about the declutter. And I quite often get clients that say, well, if I had my husband's way, he'd get the skip in and clear the lot. And I'm like, I don't want to do it that way. So a real mixture, high-flying businesswomen that just literally don't have the time, literally want to get on top of their house. They've got children, husband, and they work on their own businesses, through to people who, I work for a couple who had 3 garages that was full of stuff. And they were having to rent all these garages, and they were thinking it's crazy that they're having to rent these garages. And the gentleman had actually had Parkinson's as well, and it was putting such a strain on the family in terms of it was his stuff. So I went through really, really slowly with him, but he was such a lovely soul. He was so lovely. And we just went through garage by garage, going through selling some things, donating to charity. I'd load up my car. Then once we decluttered one garage, go on to another. And now everything's just contained in one space, which is their space, which they don't rent. And I left them happy. Through to people who, the lady I've got at the moment with her husband, again, he would like to have less stuff. They've got a lovely cottage. They moved from a lot bigger house, and they've kind of transported all the stuff from the big house into this much smaller house. So of course it's very, very cluttered as well. I mean, they actually have a barn as well, and it's full of all the stuff from the old house. We haven't addressed the barn yet. We're building up to it. I never ask clients to go in. I always say to them, let's start with your cutlery drawer. Make it really easy.
Yes.
And nice little wins, and things they're not attached to. I've had people who, ring me up and say, yes, I know I'm a hoarder and I need help. I'm working with a gentleman at the moment who has actually got dementia, but he's absolutely lovely. But again, he's moved from a lot bigger property and filled the house. And of course, with his dementia, he's forgotten what he's bought. So he's gone and duplicated everything. But I've started selling through some of his stuff as well. And he's an absolute delight to work for as well. But a real variety, really, over the years. A lot of busy housewives, and when we talk about this, because obviously as we get to know each other, there's a lot of sharing going on. And a lot of them say, when I'm with you, I can let go of this stuff. But when I'm on my own, I'm like a rabbit caught in headlights. I can't even, it's overwhelming. And I think that's the key, is that a lot of the clients are overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. Doesn't mean they don't want to, doesn't mean that they don't know that they need to, but where do they start? And I think foremost in their mind is probably the memory stuff, which they use, that's almost a block to them, because a lot of them say to me, oh, but I've got all this stuff that belonged to mum and dad and my brother, da. And I always say, park that to one side. We'll start with the easy stuff, then we'll build up the crescendo. But hopefully by the time they've got through the easy stuff and seen the results, the bigger thing will be easier. I'm not saying it's going to be amazing, but they're much easier for them.
It occurs to me that you bring them hope as well as a loving energy. Hope that they can get this done. Why do you think why do they clutter?
A lot of clients have touches of autism, ADHD, neurodiversity. And they normally, within about 2 or 3 sessions, we start talking about it, but I can pretty much tell. I mean, we're all individual. We're all individual. And you can't say just because you've got that, you're like that. I've met people that are autistic, that are really on it and really organized. And I met other people that are chaotic. I've met ADHDers that are like, whoa, and then others that are chaotic as well. There's a little bit of that going on. I do think it's those as in Gabor Mate's words, those first 8 years of childhood where there is some sort of trauma. There is some sort of trauma that keeps, when I think to my mum, it was losing my dad. When I think of this client, one of the clients now, they had some problems with debt. There's a trauma there that keeps them stuck, whether it comes from childhood. I think, if your parents are super, super, super tidy and there's quite a pressure, you could argue that you go on to be super, super messy, right? On the other hand, you could take after your parents and be really just like
We always
that.
make choices. We're
Yeah.
always making choices.
Yeah. And I was lucky in that way. My mum and dad were very organized, so you could say that would flow, my brother was very organized as well. So it definitely comes from our backgrounds, actually. In fact, that was probably, very much my mum liked us to be organized, looking smart, ship-shape in our bedrooms. So yeah, that came from that, definitely. But I think the trauma is the link as well. And then the want to do it but can't do it without me. That the number of clients that I say that, but I think it's a bit like if you went to the gym, are you able to self-motivate yourself? You've got the routine, you know how to do it, right? You've got the routine in front of you. Are you self-motivated and able to walk your way around the gym and do it? Or do you need a PT to stand there?
Yeah.
Come on, you need to do this, you need to do that. I like a PT myself, and I do online. So could I do it without knowing that he's there? Yes, I'm quite good at doing the records and everything, but I still like the fact if you took me to a gym, I would be like, I'll just go on I'll just dabble on the cross trainer, So I know myself, I've got some paperwork I've got to go through. I don't think I'll have any problem per se, but the thought of going through it is quite overwhelming, and I've got other stuff to do. There's a little bit of that as well. I'm working with a lovely teacher at the moment. Of course, she works flat out. And she's got all these nooks and crannies that are just full of stuff. But a few weeks ago, I worked on her hall and it was so lovely. Such a lovely moment. She said, "Oh, I don't think we can take this on. Oh, I think we've taken on too much. This is too much." I said, "Look, let me take the overwhelm. Just trust that we'll get the job done." And I said, "And I promise I won't leave you worse than what we were before."
Yes.
So I start clearing out coats and shoes. I'm not going to leave them in the hallway and, just pack my bags and go. And, we achieved it in 2 hours. We cleared, and there was a lot of stuff that was just rubbish that she'd kept for whenever. And she was questioning herself, "I don't know why I've kept this." But the look on her face when we finished, and she's kept it exactly the same.
That's a wonderful story. And I'm going to need to stop you there because I want to have enough time for you to tell our listeners where they can find you.
Yes, absolutely. So it's the website is the lifestyleconcept.co.uk, and all my links to all my Facebook and my Instagram are on there. I think it's Lifestyle Concept Declutterer. I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook, just posting. A lot of the stuff has got a spiritual leaning to it, just quotes and things, and every now and then I'll throw in a bit of a tip as well. But yes, that's where you can find me. So
that's lovely. It's been inspiring to hear how you help people, Beth. I'm so glad to have you on the show. I want to say to our listeners that next week I have Hugh Massey, who started an organization called Boys Without Fathers. He lost his father at a young age, and he helps boys to become work involved, to have successful careers. Once again, Beth, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you, Linda. That was amazing. Thank you.